Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salam ala Rasul al-Kareem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Jazakallah khair. I hope you guys don't mind. I'm sitting. It's been a long day. I think we're all kind of tired. So I'm just going to sit, but if anybody has any questions, I can get up and as well as if you want. But first of all, Jazakallah khair for coming. This is an important topic, and it's also dinner time. So I recognize there's two things going on at the same time. So I applaud you all for being here. I can tell you guys are a special crew. So Jazakallah khair. And this is a really important topic. It's an important topic because it's impacting our community, and we don't have a clear systematic approach in dealing with some of the issues that we're dealing with. And so part of what I want to talk a little bit about today is really shifting how we're doing in the Muslim community, and really having a clear path forward that each one of you can go away with and start advocating for more positive mental health in our communities, inshallah. But I want to first start off with having us really think about different stories and examples in the Quran which talks about mental health issues, right? And so we first start off with Surah Maryam, right? And when we look at Surah Maryam in Ayah 23, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us and tells us about the child pain, the birth pains and labor pains that Maryam alayhi salam was dealing with. And she's at this space in place where she is a respected member of the community. She now is expecting and about to, deliver her child, and she's physically in pain, mentally worried about what are people going to say, how are they going to treat her, what's going to happen next. And she's in anguish. She's experiencing emotional pain. And in that moment, she says, oh, I wish I had died before this and was in oblivion and forgotten. Can you imagine what she's going through at this point, right? And this is a reminder, as there are many other reminders in the Quran, of the fact that emotional pain is a human experience. Just because you're Muslim does not mean you have the Superman cape and then you'll never have this issue again, right? Pain, emotional pain, mental health, all of these are real lived experience. And here she is, terrified, overwhelmed, desperate, because she can't find a way out of her situation, and she doesn't know what to do. She's alone. She's in despair. And she just wishes that all of this would go away, right? And she's at that level of hopelessness. And she's reaching out to Allah and saying, oh, I wish I had died before this, right? Can you even imagine? And some of you can imagine this because you're experiencing this every day. But can you imagine this level of hopelessness, helplessness, confusion, and not really knowing what to do, where to go, how to do anything about it? And this is Maryam alayhi salam, right? The example for all of us. One of the women of paradise, right? And for us to realize that this experience of pain, the mental health concerns and issues, this is experience that so many of us experience on a day-to-day basis. And what's interesting is that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is He keeps this story for us to remember and reflect upon. Because we have that human connection, human experience, right? And for those of us who may be experiencing this, it's also a source of hope, right? There's a story of hope in her experience, and for those of us who are wanting to make change and support our community, there's also examples of how to help people who may be struggling. And we'll talk about that in a second. But what I also want us to remember is just like Maryam alayhi salam is experiencing heartbreak and emotional pain, so are so many people in our community, right? Raise your hand if you know someone, friend, family, loved one, that is struggling with some type of mental health issue. Just raise your hand, right? Almost everybody in this room. Mental health is an issue that we haven't been addressing as a community. We keep shoving it under the rug, not realizing it is so prevalent. At least from if you look around in the room, we have so many people who we know struggling, right? If you also, when we look at the research, we know that it's not just one or two situations. We know that at least 1/4 of our community is struggling with anxiety. 1/3 is experiencing depression, right? That's 1 in 3 people that you know. You may not know that they're struggling with it, but they are. And it's interesting, if you look throughout the Quran, and if you look throughout the Seerah, and if you look at the different hadith, so much mental health is embedded within our deen. I mean, even if you think about the basic stories, Yaqub alayhi salam, why did he go blind? Out of sorrow. He was so upset, in such grief, because he thought he lost a son, right? He knew that there was something else going on, but that grief of not being able to see Yusuf alayhi salam. Or think about Musa alayhi salam. After he had to leave Egypt with nothing on his back, nothing with him, he's at Madian, and he gets there and he's like, Ya Allah, please give me whatever you can give me. I don't even know what to do, right? He's that desperate, right? And think about the story of the Prophet ﷺ, the different situations. I mean, he had the year of sorrow. What's sorrow? Sadness, right? You have all of these stories that we know, and they're there in the Quran for us to remember and think and reflect and take inspiration from, right? And so for us as a community, we need to start taking these experiences and really reflecting and connecting with those experiences to help us understand our reality. So when we really think about it, we know we're struggling with a lot of anxiety and depression and other issues in mental health. But those are all the symptoms. What's underlying a lot of this, right? We have abuse and trauma. It's so prevalent in our community, right? Oftentimes, there may be domestic violence. Either it's emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, all sorts of types of abuse we have in our community, right? We often push people to stay in these marriages, but we don't realize the long-term impact, the generational trauma that results from this, right? And what happens not only in terms of the emotional well-being, but the spiritual well-being, right? And so we have to think about what is the impact long-term. Is it worth it, right? And realizing that in Islam, there's no reason to continue to be in a situation where you're constantly being harmed, right? And so recognizing that we need to have open discussions and conversations about abuse. We need to have interventions, right? Think about marital conflict. About half of our marriages in the Muslim community experience some sort of conflict, right? Some say, some divorce. But even in divorce, the divorce rates of the Muslim community isn't that statistically different from the general community. But we don't talk about it. We have this facade that we show the community. But how many times do we actually get help for our work? How many times do we get underneath the issues and challenges that we experience? And alhamdulillah, we have the Love is Blind sessions going on. I'm going to be doing one tomorrow on that, looking at conflict. But again, yes, alhamdulillah, Mass is having this kind of parallel session, but we need to be doing more in our communities, right? a lot of times it's really about communication breakdown. It's about the unmet needs that we're having that we're not expressing or not getting help for, right? We're struggling with parenting challenges. In addition to the marital conflicts, we're struggling with how do you raise young people in this environment? How do you help navigate through the challenges and issues and the complexities that they're experiencing? These are all challenges. And then earlier today we were talking about elder care. What are the challenges of elder care, and are we getting the help and support that we need? And in general, across the board, we're lacking resources, we're lacking support, we're lacking caring communities, we're lacking literacy and mental health, and really knowing what to do, when to do, and how to do it. And because of all of this, our young people are also struggling, right? And again, I'm telling you all the kind of difficulties and challenges we're dealing with. It's not doom and gloom. Don't worry, at the end, anybody who attends any of my sessions know I'll give you something to go away with. So don't worry, hang in there, right? But yeah, our young people are experiencing anxiety and depression. We have high rates of substance use. A lot of times, many people have been, scared at looking at the research that we produce at, the fact that, almost 50% are using drugs in the Muslim community. And this is old data. I'm sure it's much higher now, right? Alcohol use on a regular basis, that's prevalent. Go to any college campus, you're going to see that. Premarital sexual activity, also 50% in the Muslim community. And many of our young people are at high risk for teenage pregnancy because they're not taught, we're not discussing things, and there is no protection for them, right? And so that's another thing to realize. Some of the recent research that we just did, we found that 80% of young men and 30% of young women are using pornography, right? And they want to get help, they want to change, but they don't know how. They don't know where to get help. Because again, as a community, we're not addressing these issues. We're not talking about it. Young people are struggling with identity and belonging. 3 out of 4 young Muslims report experiencing discrimination. Are we talking about it? Are we doing anything about it? Right? And the issue is when they experience discrimination, that has they had multiple different effects. One, you don't feel like you belong. You don't feel connected to society. Well, those are risk factors. And if you don't feel like you belong and you connect, then where do you belong? And if you go to the masjid isn't exactly the most friendly place for young people. Everything is haram. And so they're stuck between both areas and not really having a place where they can be themselves, where they can grow, where they can make mistakes. They can learn from those mistakes and improve. That space has not been created in our communities. And so for us to realize as adults who care for young people, as adults who may be struggling with our own issues, we can either hurt or help our kids, right? So oftentimes, what we do is hurt people, and we do that by ignoring the issues and not dealing with what's going on, right? Kid says, I'm depressed. Oh, don't worry about it. It's all psychological. You don't have to do anything about it. Just do, 1, 2, 3, right? The kid is telling you he's hurting. He needs help. They're experimenting with drugs. Those are signs of help. Marijuana use, most of the time they're using is because they're numbing the emotions and struggles they're experiencing, right? We have to understand what's going on. So if we continue to ignore the issues at the individual level, at the community level, we're not talking about these issues. At the individual level, as parents, we get upset, we put discipline, we cut them off to different things, and we do all this punitive stuff. We're not addressing the issue, right? What we need to be doing is helping young people, addressing mental health crisis in our communities, creating caring communities to allow kids to make mistakes and still be accepted, not ostracized, right? We need to provide young people, and not just young people, each other, love, warmth, and a safe space to be real. Not to pretend everything's okay at home, not to pretend that nothing's happening, understand a place where you can get help and grow spiritually, as a family, as a community. And so if we continue with the story of Maryam alayhi salam, right, we see that Allah continues by saying, but He, Allah, called her from below. Do not grieve. Your Lord has provided beneath you a stream. And shake towards you the trunk of the palm tree. It will drop upon you ripe, fresh dates. Now think about that, right? Maryam alayhi salam is experiencing anguish. She's in emotional pain, right? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond to that pain, right? Now, most of our communities, if someone's in that extreme pain, we'd respond by saying, oh, just be grateful. Look at everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Yes, be grateful, but is this the right time and place for that conversation? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala acknowledges her grief. Acknowledges. It is what it is, labels it, calls it, acknowledges it. But then He moves on. And then He provides support. Right? Beneath you is a stream. He's giving the stream, here's some water, nourish yourself, hydrate yourself. Right? But what's interesting also is the next ayah, next part of the ayah. And shake towards you the trunk of the palm tree. He's saying you need to put in some effort. I mean, He created the stream. He could have let the dates drop, right? But no, He doesn't. He said, you need to put in some effort. Right? There needs to be some change. There needs to be some action on your part as well. And so, as we look at this as a template for us as a community, we really need to start thinking, are we doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown us in this one story of Maryam alayhi salam? Right? As a community, are we providing the support to our community members? Those who are struggling with mental health issues? Or are we just kind of pushing it to the side? Right? And so that's where we need to start changing and thinking about what to do. And so what I'd like to propose is something different than you probably have heard anyplace else. And this is a community-based solution to our mental health issues and challenges that we're experiencing within the community. So first of all, one of the things is we need to take a shift in how we approach mental health. Most of the times, we as a community think about mental health and helping the community, addressing a topic after an issue happens, when things go bad. How many of you are familiar with what just happened with Wissam Sharif? Right? Everyone's in shock. Everyone's getting all these resources saying, oh, we need to do something, we need to do something. How could this happen? It's very easy for this to happen. It's very common for this to happen. And many of us who are clinicians, who are working with individuals who are victims of these types of situations, have been screaming and yelling at the top of our lungs, saying, we do not have prevention set up. We are not addressing these topics. And we keep platforming individuals like this over and over and over again. There are no consequences. And if there are no consequences, this is going to happen again. Right? But we don't address it until after the fact. Right? When we have experiences of domestic violence or someone commits suicide, we're like, how did this happen? We didn't do anything. We go off. But what about going upstream? Helping people, identifying what's going on and helping people where they're at when they need it, right? We focus on the individual and the medical approach, which there is this time and space for that. However, the mental health crisis within the Muslim community has gotten so bad because no one's addressing this issue. We have to shift to a community approach. We have to get everybody on board. We need to get much more support so that we can care for our communities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Baqarah, and do not throw yourself with your own hands into destruction. The more we keep ignoring our mental health issues, the more we're destroying ourselves and our communities, right? And so Allah is instructing us that if we know better, take the precautions, right? Avoid situations that could lead to harm. Instead of waiting for things to happen, let's just move upstream. Let's engage in prevention. And that's what community mental health is talking about. Community or public mental health model is saying, let's deal with the issue beforehand. All of us remember COVID, correct? It was just a few years ago. When we had COVID, what was the situation? Right? We were all kind of like, okay, what do we do? There's this disease, and we stuck in their home. The hospitals were overwhelmed. And what were the instructions we were given? Wash your hands, mask up, keep the distance, right? That's all that's community health, and that's preventative. You prevent people from, for them to get COVID, and then if you do get COVID, we need to do the research to make sure we have some type of way to address the issue. Right? That's taking it one, like, let's prevent it. And if it does happen, this is what we're going to do. What if we did the same thing for mental health? Right? Where we try to prevent as much as we can. And then when it comes to having issues, then the clinicians can deal with individuals who, with all that prevention, then they address it. The challenge many of us mental health professionals have, like, I have a 1-year wait list. I'm sorry, I can't do anything more than I'm doing. But a lot of the issues that I'm dealing with could easily have been prevented if the community has workshops and programming on these issues. If the community would talk about different mental health issues, depression, anxiety, parenting issues, ADHD, all of these different, if we are able to prevent some of this stuff, let parents know, let community folks know what it looks like, how to get help, where to get help, do it early, the situation gets much easier. The longer you have a mental health issue, the harder it is to make the change. It's not that it's impossible, it just takes so much more work. So if someone has ADHD, and then because it's not been addressed, they develop a negative self-esteem, then they get into depression, and then they go, it's just a cascading effect. If you just dealt with the ADHD, got the medication, got the techniques, you could avoid all of this, right? If you had self-esteem issues, if you addressed this beforehand, you wouldn't have to necessarily bring it into the marriage. Like, all of these issues are preventable. So that's what I mean by having a public health model. If we slow down the issues and the challenges and help people get help earlier, beforehand, it doesn't have to be so bad. It doesn't have to hurt so much. And so that's what I'm suggesting is, first, we need to take a shift in how we think about mental health and how we intervene, and take a preventative model to help our community. Second, we need to look at our context and to see what's impacting us. We all know the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he reminds us the example of a good companion and a bad companion is like that of a seller of the musk and the one who blows the bellows, the blacksmith, right? The seller of a musk will either offer you some for free, you will buy it from them, or at least you will smell its pleasant fragrance, right? It's a win-win situation. Or, as for the one who blows the bellows, meaning the blacksmith, he will either burn your clothes or you'll notice a bad smell from him, right? In that situation, nothing's good going to come out of it. We have to recognize that our context has an impact, right? Our context has an impact on our mental health and well-being. Our context has an impact on our stress, what we're exposed to, what impacts us. And so we need to recognize fully what our context is and not pretend to be someplace else in a different time period. Because a lot of times we think, oh, back home, whatever back home is going to be better. I mean, I'm first generation. I'm not going back home. This is my home, right? Bowling Green, Ohio, the cornfields of Ohio, that is my home. right? I can't last in India more than 2 weeks. I love the food, I love the jewelry, but people can hear me and they can tell that I'm not from here, right? And so what impacts me is my sociocultural environment. Think about all the different factors that can impact you. As a community, we need to think and be smart about how are we going to intervene. There are millions of things that we could do, but what's going to get us the biggest bang for our buck? Where are we as a community going to put our resources, our time and energy, and where is that going to have the best impact on mental health? And so we see that if we intervene in our masajids, in our homes, in our schools, with the individual, with the young person and the parent, that's going to get us the biggest bang for our buck. That's where we can make the biggest change. That's where we have the greatest influence. Trump is in power. Okay, we voted, and whatever happened, it is what it is. We're not going to have that impact. We're not going to be able to do certain stuff about who's now that Secretary of Education. That's a different story, right? But we can have an impact on our families. We can have an impact on our schools and our masajids. And that's where we need to think about, okay, we're going to make change there. Now, the third thing that we also need to do is take a collective effort in identifying what are the issues that we as a community want to prioritize, to understand, to make a difference in mental health, right? There's a million things that we can do. As a researcher, there's a lot of interesting things. But that's not going to necessarily be the priority of those of you who are in the community. You have real issues, and you need those issues solved. You need direction, you need guidance, right? You need something to help you navigate the complexities of our realities. And so we need to get a collective effort of all the different facets of our communities to understand what are the nuances of mental health that we need to consider. Okay? And then once we understand what the issues are that are most important for our community, then we need to understand the nuances, right? So the research that we had done on pornography, one of the questions we used the research to understand, well, what are the different factors contributing to why people are using? Any guesses as to what if you read the research, don't answer the question, but any guesses as to what was the leading factor of why people were using it? Not getting married. You would think that, right? Louder. Loneliness. Yeah. What else? Depression? Low self-esteem? Yeah, you know what the number one reason was? People didn't know how to cope. If we understand that the reason is they don't know how to cope, what if we just taught them how to cope? Right? What if we help them cope, know what to do, provide resources, and help them in that direction? And that's why this is really important, where we need to do the research, and no one's going to do the research except for us. Right? People invested in the community. We need to do the research. But once you do the research, you know what? I do research, I publish my paper, and no one cares. Right? I spend years putting it together. No one cares. We need to find the solutions. We do the research. We need to do the research to understand the nuances and what the issues and challenges are. But then, once you do that, you need to be able to translate that in a way that the community can benefit, where there's solutions for people to use, right? And that's where you need to go to the next step of developing resources, right? And so once you're able to do that, then we need to get it back to the community, to all of you who are here to help make a difference in the community. And so that's where we get to the next puzzle piece of change that needs to happen. Right? And so we need to have mental health resources that are specific to our community issues and challenges. The universities are not interested in pornography in our community. They're not interested in our substance abuse issues. They're not interested in our marriage issues. They don't care. We're too small of a community, right? But we care because we're struggling, right? And so we need to have these resources, and we need, as a group of individuals, to collectively come together and start raising awareness in our community, right? And as we raise awareness, we increase literacy, the mental health literacy that currently is missing. Because without that literacy, our people can't get help. And they don't even know where to get help. And they don't know how to get help. That's where we need to start shifting and providing that for them. We need to provide skills-based help, workshop, direction, parenting. It's not good enough to come to a convention and hear someone inspire you. I'm not that, alhamdulillah, maybe I'm inspiring, but I'm not really that inspiring. You need skills, right? You need skills to be able to be like, okay, now what do I do? When I get into a conflict with my husband, how do I deal with it? We will be talking about that tomorrow, inshallah. But how do I do it in a systematic way? How do I address the trauma and the experiences and challenges that I've had, that I'm living with, to make those changes? That's skills-based. That takes hard work, but that's where the change happens, right? So then we also need mentorship. We talk about youth mentorship, which is extremely important, but what about marriage mentorship? What about parenting mentorship? Like, how many of us could use that, right? All of us. I'm a psychologist, I study this, I do research, I have 3 teenagers or young adults, and I still mess up. They will tell you, they'll be like, yeah, I'll tell you how my mom messed up. They messed up this. That happens. I need mentorship as well. We all need a mentorship. And so recognize that we need all of this to establish caring communities so that we can do the preventative work to help our community be healthier and thrive. And so we go back to the Quran, and Allah reminds us, and for those who are conscious of Allah, for those who are conscious of Allah, He always prepares a way out. And He provides for him from sources you can never imagine. So I've talked about all of these things, right? All of these things that need to happen within our community. And 20 years ago, I would have said it was impossible. 20 years ago, if someone would have told me, Sameera, do this, this is what we need to do to make change within our community, I'm like, yeah, this is wonderful, but it ain't happening. We're too busy fighting, we're too busy doing X, Y, Z and all that. How are we going to do all this? And so I want to show a path forward, which all of us can participate in, and all of us can make change. Okay. And I wanted to share with you, 18 years ago, I founded the Family and Youth Institute. It is a national research and education institute focusing on Muslim mental health and family wellness. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to strengthen our community, empower each one of you to help change our lives, thrive, be resilient. And the way we can do it is through mental health research and education, right? And all of what we just talked about, right? That's what we're doing. We talked about gathering the researchers to understand the problem. We're talking about gathering people's input, all the different voices, the clinicians, the imams, the individuals who are experiencing the trauma, and for individuals who are marginalized, all of that. You coming here today, that's part of the experience, because when you let us know, hey, this issue is really impacting our community, do you have any resources? If we don't, guess what? That gets on our list. The pornography research came because so many in our community said, hey, do you guys have anything? We don't. Our Black Muslim youth research came because so many people said, we don't have anything. Our research on so many different areas is because you all have said we need content. And so that's why we do the research. And we get the professionals to come together and produce the resources. But again, if I have my research, I put it in the journal article, ain't no one reading it, right? The reality is, each one of you have a responsibility. We're creating this so that you can then go into your communities and start making the changes, because then, as we create the resources, we're also creating collectively together awareness, increasing mental health awareness in our communities. We're helping build skills. We're creating content so that you can use in your masajids. You can have the workshops. You can help integrate it into your curriculum, right? You have all that available at your fingertips, right? And so the idea is, if you're able to do this in your communities, you're able to create more caring communities, which then means we have more thriving Muslim Americans, right? And so that's what we're trying to do. And so we have different topics that we've talked about. We've done research on these different areas: Muslim youth, marriage, parenting, mental health, and elder care. If you're not aware of any of that, I can send that information to you later on, inshallah. But here's some example. We've done the research on youth, and then we translate that into research, the State of Muslim Youth Report. Those are for individuals who are running communities, who are youth leaders, who are doing all these programming. Here's a step-by-step based on the research. This is what you got to know. But we have all these videos and all this content that, again, is accessible for you. Similarly with marriage, we saw that the divorce rate was so high. And there's a time and place for divorce, and we should always use it whenever it is needed, right? And it's important that we understand that we have resources for divorce support as well. But for us to realize, if there's an issue with marriage conflict, let's move upstream. Let's figure out and address the issue before people get married. And again, understanding what the research is there. Similarly with porn. Again, this is an issue. We produce the research, and then we produce resources for people, because we realize people are afraid to get help. They want help, they need help, but they don't know where to go. And so providing that to people. And so the resources for mental health are there, right? Now it's your role, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves, right? And so for us to realize we're in a different place than we were 20 years ago. We have the resources to start making changes in our local communities. There's nobody that doesn't have the resources, because this is all available free and online, right? And so each one of you, I'm asking you to, one, raise awareness in your circles, right? Increase your mental health literacy. Share that information with everybody else. All you have to do is amplify. There's no effort from you. Just share in your WhatsApp groups, share on social media, share the information. And then when you go back to your communities, you really need to set up mental health task force in your masajids, right? Really need to help with making sure there's visual information available in your masajids, on your bulletin boards, in your communities. You don't have to create it. Just download and print it out. Do it for free. We're not asking anything from you. We just want to make that change. If everybody takes the responsibility of taking those infographics that we have, printing it out, putting it in your masajids, you're starting the conversation, right? Work with your khatibs to have topics. If you need topics, let us know. We'll get you the khutbahs. We have those khutbahs as well. Digital intervention is sharing the content. Marriage preparation. If you know someone is getting married, refer them to the site. Before they get married, there's a bunch of free resources. If they're about to get engaged, there's an online course. There's so many different things we have available for the Muslim community. And all these workshops and resources. The thing that we need to realize is we can make that change, but we need everyone to participate. Right? And if you're looking for information, if you take the QR code, I can send you the information, but make sure to indicate which session you're in so that I can help get you the resources that you're looking for. But the key thing that I want us to explain is our current mental health crisis is not going to change until we have a different approach in how we're addressing it. We need to understand it, collectively increase our mental health literacy. I can't do a 40-minute session and tell you about all the different issues. It's just not going to work. We need to put an effort and learn about it. Secondly, we need to take responsibilities for our community and actually start making those changes, start the conversation, give them the resources and say, here, we don't have to do this by ourselves. We have this institute that's doing it for us. We just need to implement. Right? So, Jazakallah khair, everyone, for attentively listening. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Yes. You do? Okay. Okay.
Yes, alhamdulillah. So we have Maryam and Dan. Oh, we have some questions coming in already. They are walking around with paper and pens for questions, inshallah. Please try to fill them out and send them up as soon as possible. Sometimes we get duplicate questions, so we want to see as much as possible. Okay, alhamdulillah, they're coming in.
So the first question is, can you give an accelerated step-by-step on how to become more positive and get rid of negative mindset in both times of ease and adversity? I cannot do that in accelerated format. But what I can say, at least two things, right? Usually when you have a negative mindset, there are certain negative core beliefs that you've adopted. And core beliefs meaning how you see yourself, how you see other people, how you see the future. And so some of that negativity that you may have internalized over time may be contributing to that negativity, and it sticks. And because it sticks, it's like Velcro. It's hard to let go. And so the first step is to really build awareness of the negative mindset, what we call in psychology negative cognitions that you may have adopted due to those core beliefs. And so that would be the first step, is increase awareness. So if you want to look up the words negative core beliefs, negative cognitions, that would be your first step. I would Google that. We have some on our website. Just go to our website, the fyi.org. I think Yaqeen's website also has a whole series on, I'm saying Yaqeen because I know she works at Yaqeen. Yeah. So they have a series that talks about negative cognitions as well. And so those two places are the two places I would start off to help you address that issue. And in that, there's a lot of depth. And so I don't want to shortchange you and say, oh yeah, 1, 2, 3. This is not a clickbaity. I'm not a clickbaity type person. I want you to address the solutions in a deep manner, and those are the two places I would go. Okay, so this is a really important question. I mean, they're all going to be important questions, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. I would love to learn approach how to convince, especially parents, with the importance of intervention or medication, especially for certain mental health disorders such as ADHD or ASD. Here's the thing. This is what I was talking about earlier. Because we don't understand mental health as a community, we don't realize how important treatment is. And in the treatment, what is the best course of treatment? Some issues are biologically based. If you've got diabetes, you're not going to tell them don't take the medication. If someone's got blood pressure issues, you're not going to be like, oh, just fix it. No, you need to take the medication. And so one of the things that as advocates, all of us are advocates. You're here in this room, you're an advocate. You have that responsibility to have those conversations and help people realize that mental health and physical health, there's no difference. What you do with physical health, you would do the same as mental health. And so helping to make that connection would be the first step. But if you think about it from a parent-child perspective, there's a power dynamic. Until you're 18, you have to listen to your parents. It's very hard to get help any other way. So that's one of the reasons why we need to take that community approach to mental health. Because young people are stuck in these dynamics where they push. They're asking for help. They're saying, I need help. I need therapy. I need this. And parents, sorry, I messed this up. Parents are not getting them the help that they need, which then has long-term negative consequences. And when I was giving the example of ADHD, that's one of the biggest examples. Because people are like, I don't want to medicate my child. I don't want to do this long-term. I get it. Nobody wants it. But if you don't, if you know, you have to work with a clinician, a pediatrician, and a team to figure out, do you need it? And you have to go through a process. It's not like people are just passing out pills. You go through a process, you taper, you figure, okay, does this work? Does this medication work? Does this? It's not, it's a well thought out process that you need to go through. But when you give the medication, it transforms some people's worlds. I had a child who they were engaging in risky behavior and they weren't doing in school, but we could tell she was very bright. And we couldn't figure it out until we recognized that she had ADHD. And then the risk-taking behavior made sense. Then the academic challenges made sense. But because even that time period, a few years, that started to result in negative self-esteem. And so part of that is realizing, alhamdulillah for that child, we were able to catch it quickly and get her the help that we didn't. But then there are so many other people I know who didn't get that help because their parents weren't willing to take those steps. So again, this question highlights the need for a community approach as well. Okay. So there's a couple questions I'm going to say. What support is available for mental health providers to set up community workshops in their community? So if you're asking about the FYI coming in a workshop, you can contact us and then we'll come in and you can come and do a workshop for you. If you're talking about you doing a workshop in the community, then that requires that you really need to develop a strong relationship and connection and trust with the community leadership. Because here's the thing, what people don't realize is the community leadership, there are gatekeepers in any community, right? That's just a reality. But sometimes it's because of egos, but a lot of times it's because people care about their community, right? They don't want our people to go to places and spaces where their deen is not respected, their faith is not respected. And so you need to show and be there. You have to be at community events. You have to be places where they start to see you and know you and trust you to then be willing to invite you to do a workshop. And you need to show that consistency. Like, we're able to get into the community. We're able to be at the conventions because I've been serving the Muslim community for 37 years. That's the only reason. There is a track record. And so because there is that track record within MSA National, within MASLA National, within all of these different organizations, that trust is there. And so at the local level, you need to do that as well. If you're raising mental health awareness with friends but keep getting made fun of, what advice do you have? One. And two, what have you seen work in mobilizing a Muslim community in massages and addressing mental health before tragedy occurs? So it's really, that's one of the reasons why I suggest having a mental health task force. Because you start off with a team of people who understand the issue and want to make change, right? And so what we've done in some of the communities, we'll come in, we'll do a workshop on mental health, but through that, then the community knows, okay, if they're showing up, there's an interest there. Then, after that, you get those people together and say, okay, what are we going to do and how are we going to implement this in our community? That's your task force. From there, then you go and you say, okay, let's help the khatibs with khutbahs, right? And you ask them, can you do one khutbah on mental health? Start if they're really resistant, get someone from outside to do it. If not resistant, if they're willing to do it, usually the issue is they don't want to put together the khutbah. Okay, we have a bunch of khutbahs, give them a khutbah, write their khutbahs. I used to write the khutbah for our community for years and people didn't know about it. Alhamdulillah, my husband was a khatib, so I made it easier. He'd be like, oh, so what are we talking about today? I'd be like, okay, this is what you're talking about. I did it for about 2 decades. And then now, alhamdulillah, the training wheels are off and he does it himself. But no, there's nothing stopping you, right? So that's another thing you can do. Also, providing parenting programming and marriage programming, because that's the pain point our community is struggling with. And if you're able to do that, then you get more advocates to help you with mental health issues. And so really, in thinking about making it as easy for your community as possible. And that's why I said, go to the website, download the content, I don't care. That's what it's there for, right? Take that, put it up. It's not costing the masjid anything, right? It's not costing anyone anything. If you're doing the work, you're putting up there. And so realizing, being strategic with the resources you have to start making the change. Take the articles from the website and say, okay, let's have a circle where we discuss, the parenting circle, where we discuss this, right? That's another way, right? There's so many different things that you can do in your community to help raise awareness. Okay, so 2 questions. As a parent of a child with ADHD, how can I help them prevent the domino effect and help them as a parent? 1. And what advice do you give a mother who has raised her kids the same, but one child has grown to be very dishonest and caused a lot of troubles and heartaches? 2 different questions. I'll start with the first one. So the first question is ADHD. Learn as much as you can about ADHD, because then you can coach them through the process. You know, in terms of academics, like, okay, what are the different interventions you can help them with their academics and studying so that they can succeed in school? In terms of emotional, you know, with ADHD, you have to realize that there are different types of ADHD, right? So first figure out what type of ADHD they have. Once you know what type of ADHD they are, you want to figure out, like, for example, if they're struggling with executive functioning, organizing themselves, what aspect of that are they struggling with? So really thinking, kind of doing the deep dive as to what that looks like. Also, as you do that, recognize that developmentally things change. So ADHD, you know, you might focus initially on the academic space, but then you also need to talk about it from the emotional space. Because guess what? When they get married, lots of marriage issues, almost about a quarter of our issues in marriage counseling is because one of the partners got ADHD. So recognize that it's a lifelong thing that you need to kind of coach them through. So the more you as a parent know about ADHD, the more you can help them. And then the other question was, what do you advise a mother who has raised her kids the same, but one child's grown to be very dishonest and causes a lot of trouble and heartache? I mean, let's look at the story of Yaqub alayhi salam, right? You have Yusuf alayhi salam and Benjamin, and then you have the other 12, right? Part of what we as parents need to recognize is we can't take a cookie cutter approach in our tarbiyah with our kids. What works for one child may not work with another child, right? And so recognizing the child in front of you, trying to listen and understand what's going on with him or her, trying to problem solve with him and her with love and respect. And I'm not saying that that wasn't done, but I'm just telling you from personal experiences. I've got one child who's, mashallah, model child, and I've got another child who is why we have that fayette. Like, oh, okay, now I need to write about this. Oh, now I need to write about that. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us each child for character building, right? And so what I've had to do with my other child is to be like, okay, now what do I do? And one of the things that's really helpful for me has been 2 things. It's the same. Same thing, but when we look at the seerah, like I see it in the seerah, but I also know from the research, is the first thing that we need to do is we need to connect with our children, right? Because oftentimes we jump into character development. Oh, this, yeah, why aren't you doing this? Why is your hijab this way? Why are you wearing your clothes this way? Why are you doing this? And why we're focusing on those externals. That's important, but it's not the center. That's not the first thing. When we look at the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he first started with connecting to people's hearts. And when he connected to people's hearts and helped them realize that he truly loved them and cared for them, then he was able to start opening up and talk about character and about changes. And so my advice to you would be what I've had to do myself, is take a couple steps back, start from the beginning, focus on developing a connection with your child. They're not necessarily going to do everything that you want, but that's where you can get your du'as. That's where you tahajjud, start the tahajjud, make the du'as. I mean, I'm telling you, just do it. You'll see it eventually, inshallah. But the connecting, once they're feeling that you're seeing them for them, and that you're trying your best to hear them, then you have an opening.